I'm taking number one, so. Just get the parking thing done, because I got a lot of hold right now. Oh, okay.
We moved the last item to the first item.
Okay, I gotta step out, but I'm just waiting for you to open the meeting.
Okay. 5:30, 1 minute. How you doing?
How you doing?
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have a few agenda change items. Number 4, we'll move to number 1, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute this real quick.
And Mr. Singleton, he'll be a little bit late.
Tom, I'm gonna go ahead and start, but it's unmuted.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk about the Gene Clock Park and the parking there. To start, we'll give a little bit of history. In years past, we've always had a person working in the gate shack.
Yeah.
They take cash payments or credit card payments there, hand out passes and everything else. It's been a kind of a loose position in the fact that there's not a lot of accountability there. We don't have a solid true number of what's going in and what's going out. It can bottleneck at times if the beach gets busy. So what we're looking to propose is we automate the system at Clock Park. Okay, there are 380 parking spots there in that L-shaped stretch.
Mhm.
And what we were looking to do was, much like New Buffalo, St. Joe, South Haven, all the communities around us have done, is we'll set up kiosks, one on the south side that covers that large stretch of parking, and then one by the concession stand
Okay.
that everybody would hit in the middle. And so then when you park, when you pull in, you would go to the kiosk, pay your parking fees there, enter your license plate, and then you're good to go. This way, everybody has to pay, everybody has to park, you enter your plate. We know exactly how many's going in, we know how many's coming out. I think in the first year, we looked at a couple different options, but in the first year, we set the machines up to take cash as well as card payments,
Mhm.
just to see how that goes. The advantages to this, even with the cash payments going in there, nobody's touching that. It's in a box, in a cassette, in the machine. We take that to the bank and take it out. One of the other things that we're looking as part of this package is an app. So if you know you're going to go to the beach on a certain day, you can just log in on the app on your cell phone and pay for parking ahead of time. Okay. We know that we've always given city residents 2 free parking per household for two vehicles. So the only change to the city resident that they would see is, instead of coming to City Hall and getting their passes, they would come to City Hall and just give us the 2 license plates of the vehicle that they want in the system. How it works is, instead of putting a person in the gate shack, we'll have the person who's working the beach, they'll be in a vehicle. And on that vehicle, it'll have a camera. And as they drive up and down, it reads the license plates on the cars. And then it compares it to the list that the kiosks are giving the camera update every as soon as one changes. If there's a plate there that's not on the list, we generate a parking ticket and we move on. The other thing that we were looking to propose was, so right now you have a $6 resident parking fee for the day and an $8 non-resident for the day. What we'd like to add is a partial day. New Buffalo did this last year, and it was one of their biggest sellers. The nice thing is, it's like a 3 or 4 hour block of time. So if you want to go to the beach and just have your lunch there, but you don't want to pay for a full day rate, and you know you're only going to be there for maybe an hour, this would be the perfect thing. You're not paying a full day rate, but you can still go in there, sit, have your lunch, not get a full parking ticket. The system is completely automated, so we have a full accountability of how many cars are at the beach at any given time, because as it's going through and it reads each plate, it's keeping track of them. The other thing that this will allow us to do, we can take those spikes out at the north end, because this system now will allow, if you just want to take a drive through, you really can't, because you still got to pay for a pass, because the person's not going to know if you're staying or going. Now, what we can do with this system is, if you're just driving through, the plate reader's not going to catch your car parking, so you can just take a drive through, cruise the beach, and then go on about your business. That's another nice perk to this. By not putting the kiosk right at the entrance, it allows us to free that space up. We won't have that bottleneck of traffic coming off of Clock Road there into the beach. So you'll be able to go in, get your parking, get yourself situated, go to the concession stand or to that other kiosk, pay for your parking, and then we go from there. As we go, a couple other things that we've been exploring parking wise is looking at the city lots that are downtown. With the advent of the amount of business that are looking to come downtown, that's basically an untapped revenue source for the city. This system is scalable, so we can just add to it as we go. We identify our city parking lots. We figure out which ones are 2 hour by ordinance or which ones are not. So as we go down the line, we can add or subtract the system as well. But we're looking to start with Clock Park. If you have any questions, or if Tom, if I missed anything and you want to go a little more in depth.
No, I mean, you covered everything real well, Mike. The only thing I would, throw out there as far as who Total Parking is, we've been, in business doing this type of parking applications for like 16 years. We have almost 1,000 terminals out on the street. We've never really ventured off into anything else. My business partner and myself put this together and built the company up. We have 93 cities and municipalities as our client base, 5 major universities, and 7 or 8 major parking operators. So we kind of, got a good handle on how all this goes. This setup is very, very, very similar to New Buffalo. And I'm not promising revenue increases or anything. That's not what we do. We make suggestions on how things can help you. But I can tell you, just through compliance and accountability and the ability to audit the number of cars coming in versus the amount of money coming in, they doubled their revenue the first year they did this.
So
Other than that, Mike, you pretty much covered it. The systems are completely sealed. The money inside the machines are basically in 2 separate vaults within vaults. Nobody can touch it. Once the vault comes out, it spits out a receipt, tells you exactly how much is in each vault by denomination, if it's bills or if it's coins. They're 2 separate. I think what you'll end up seeing, to be quite honest, is you'll probably end up seeing somewhere between 20 and 35% play with people using the mobile payment app to be able to pay on their cell phone. It's a great feature, and it's certainly a huge benefit to the city because there's no cost. Any signage is provided by us, and any fee that's applied goes to the parker, the end user, as a convenience fee. The only costs really to the city involved in anything like that are what your normal credit card fees would be, whoever you use for your credit card processor. We are not a processor. We don't step on transactions or anything like that. We basically just pass data through to who you tell us to pass it through to.
So just to kind of help Tom with letting you know where he's at, they're a Chicagoland area company, but they've also done South Haven, New Buffalo, St. Joe. So we kind of, when we started talking with them, we knew they had a bit of a local edge to them, and they understand what we're looking at in regards to recreational parking for the summer. And again, the only costs that we will see are the cost of the camera that reads the plates. We'll put that on an existing vehicle that we have now. We already have a laptop that can run it and all that. And then the cost of the kiosks. And those kiosks are solar powered, and they also have their own cellular communication ability. So we can really just set those up anywhere. We just have a pad for them. They get bolted down. There they go. At the end of the season, we unbolt them. We bring them into the building, and then we put them back out at the start of the season, and we go from there.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah, I think, like St. Joe's, and I'm not sure if New Buffalo removes theirs now, or they just bag them. They got some nice, like, full-size bag, like, almost like a fake kind of leather, like a naga hide that slides down over the machine. So different people do different things with them. Whiting, they just basically pull the batteries, because, the machines are solid stainless steel. Nothing's going to happen to them sitting out there. It just means, we have to go out and PM them and clean them up a little bit better in the springtime, as we do for all our seasonal accounts. All the way around the lake, we have, I don't even know, 14 machines in Whiting. We just did the beach lots over in Gary, Indiana as well, and then coming up around Buffalo and St. Joe's and South Haven.
So I have a question, and I think he answered it, because I was gonna ask, how is it affected by any Wi-Fi or outages and stuff like that? And that's because it's standalone, has it's self-contained.
Correct. Yep. It has its own power and its own cellular. And we're not, by doing this, we're also not really cutting any beach positions. All we're doing is taking that person that would normally sit in the gate shack for hours on end and stare out the window. We're gonna put them in the car, and they'll be moving up and down the beach. So then not only are we still keeping somebody out there, but we also have a face that people can see if they have questions or anything else.
Another question. So you answered that one. So I have another one. You talked about the convenience fee. They don't charge an additional fee, but what would be the fee to the user? You said that there was a convenience fee for people using the kiosk.
I don't know what the percentage is. It's no different than if you use an app to pay for anything. There's always that little bit of extra. Or if you're buying tickets on the internet, there's always that convenience.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as much as like Ticketmaster, but it's a small percentage.
It's 37 cents.
Okay.
It's 37 cents on a transaction. It's done, we do our mobile paying, digital permitting, things like that through a company called Passport. They're one of the two largest in that entire industry. They do Chicago, Toronto, New York, Portland. They're big players. We started out with them when they were just 4 guys way back a long time ago. We were kind of cut from the same vein, small company, building ourselves up. And they've done some real good work with us because of the presence in the municipal market that we had already established. Before Passport came along, we had already been in equipment in, over 65, 68 municipalities. So when they came into here, they wanted to work with us a lot to get into that municipal market. And they're sound, they're very sound. And, the only thing I can always say in regard to that is they're not nonprofit. And that's where that 37 cent fee to the user per transaction goes into their development, their size, their overhead, everything involved when you're talking, major software players like they are now.
So I know you said something as far as you go in 1 hour. How much is that gonna be for like somebody wanna go in 1 hour?
That's something that we'll have to work out as the committee to determine what those are. Like I said, right now we have a $6 resident rate if you don't already have a pass, and an $8 non-resident. So I imagine we probably want to, half one of those numbers and call it that for your partial day. When I got this idea brought to me, it was brought to me by the chief of police in New Buffalo. And what he told me was that was actually their largest transaction last year. And their beach revenues almost doubled. So for us, our parking revenues last year for 380 spots were 131,000. We don't know. We're not going to try and create a number to say that's what we're going to hit. But I think that this system will allow us to have more accountability from start to finish, and we can actually see what's going out, who's coming in, who's going out, car numbers wise each day, and have a solid number with no question as to the funds or the revenue being generated. And then their system also creates audit reports as finance would need to do their reconciliations.
So if, and this probably wouldn't happen unless you were having a large event. So in the case that all of those 380 spaces were used up, would it tell the people at the gate, would it still allow for people to come in and they would just have to drive around and see that there were no empty spaces?
Yeah, there'd be no, you wouldn't want to put a lot full size and start getting people backing up on the way out. Has it come to pass where it's been completely full up and you
It has a couple times. It was so if you're looping that roundabout, it's not going to affect you cost wise on your parking.
No, I know that, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
would it alert the people that there are no more spaces and they just have to, find someplace else? Would it, the lot is full, would it be
No.
okay? All right.
Not that.
No, because then you'd have to have a counter on both ends, you'd have to have a lot full time, that's more than what you're trying to accomplish. I think with them going through and even with splitting the rate, like you were saying, doing the half day, full day, you're gonna get more turnover. And I also believe you're gonna get more turnover just because of accountability. People are gonna have to comply more now that they know that there's somebody going through there with a, LPR camera.
So for some reason, someone just decides, I'm gonna park and I'm not gonna pay for the parking. What happens at that point?
So initially we would generate a parking ticket, it will go on their car. They have, our parking ticket ordinance has a set number of days that you have to pay it at a certain rate, and then it will change after those days. And it has three periods of time where it goes up and then it doubles. After that, if it still hasn't been paid, it comes back to us on the public safety side. We would then issue a state parking ticket that would go to the court system if we reach that point. We usually, even on our parking tickets that we write, we get compliance. But if we had to, we could do it that way. Then it would go on their driving record, and if they don't take care of it, they could, face license suspension and all that.
What about people having an event there?
So if there's an event at the beach and that would be taken care of downstairs, but they would say, if they're going to say we need 80 parking spaces and they're going to rope off, they'll say we need 80 parking spaces on this side. What we would do is let the person know, hey, these parking spaces right here are already allocated towards this event. They're taken care of. They're fine, and we just wouldn't put them in the system. We wouldn't run them through.
Or Mike, the other thing you could do is, if instead of people going out and roping off and doing all that, if they knew ahead of time and could, provide information to us.
Yeah.
The nice thing about all this is that it's all done wireless. It's all done up in the cloud. So basically what would happen is you could say, here's the event. We need 40 spaces. There'd be a code generated for 40 people basically. So when they put their license plate number in, they would enter that code in, and that would give them, it would give them that free pass basically to use that parking lot. So when the LPR camera shot it, it would tell them that they're at that event. They've been validated basically is what that's doing. So there is an automated way to do that without the physical presence of having somebody do it if you so wish to do it.
So you gotta get all the license plates or?
No, we would give we would create an event code.
No.
Right, the event code would go to whoever is sponsoring the event, and they would send out with their invitations or whatever.
Yeah. So then when you go to your kiosk, you punch in your event code, the system knows that this person and this vehicles for the event.
Correct, that is correct. And one of the, a couple other things, and Mike did mention this, and then, this is a lot of, it's up to the police department. We don't, really say they should do this or shouldn't do that. They have their own practices, and that's, they do what works for them, and that's wonderful. there is an ability with the LPR system that it gives them the benefit also of finding license plates as they scan for either amber alert plates, silver alert plates for elderly people, and even stolen vehicles. There's a national database that they can get access to that would give them that information just by scanning the plates through the parking lot.
And just so you know, Madam Chair, we are trying to time this to be ready for the opening. It's possible we won't be ready for the opening because some of the equipment won't be ready. However, we will be posting signs, so it'll give people time to get acclimated to the new system. So we're looking to get it approved at Monday's meeting, and then they'll get started on the ordering of the equipment. Should be in 6 to 8 weeks.
And we'll run this through all of our local media. We'll make sure that there's plenty of press rollout so everybody knows this is how to do it. I mean, if you've gone to a beach anywhere in Michigan, you've probably seen something like this as it is. So, but I want to make sure we want to make sure that especially city residents know just the minor changes make it easier.
Is there a demo video of something that you?
I'm sure we can create one.
Yeah, oh yeah. There are probably even examples from all the accounts that we've done like this, Mike, as well, that we may be able to find some stuff.
I'd like to open it up for anybody that, Commissioner Isom, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
Just to the chair, you said the person that's gonna be in the vehicle, will it be a reserve officer or just somebody you'll hire for that?
That would be a beach employee, essentially a meter maid, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll also take it a couple steps further, get them some basic first aid training and some other things. So they're not just out there writing tickets, but if they have people have questions or other issues. Another thing I didn't touch on with this too, I know we've had a problem with golf carts.
Right.
This system, once we get going, if there's a golf cart, they're gonna get a ticket. No matter whose it is, we'll identify it and they will get cited because golf carts are not allowed. But that person would be a beach employee.
Mm-hmm.
So not only would they be doing this, but again, they'll be out there to answer questions or.
Uniform.
Yeah, it'll probably be like a polo shirt of some sort that'll say like park ranger or park employee. Something that along the line. They will have direct contact with the police department.
Okay.
So if they do need help, we can get help out there quickly. But they're not going to be an officer per se or a reserve or anything like that. It'll be a
Over high school age, over 21, let's say.
preferably, yes.
Okay. Okay, what's the name of the company again?
Total parking.
Thank you.
Also, we're talking about 3 shifts probably a day. So that's 3 people. Something like that. We haven't worked out the details yet.
The beach is open 15 hours a day, so it works out 3 5-hour shifts a day. I mean, obviously, if we find somebody that can work a little more, a little less, we'll work with that with HR, but the preferred is 3 5-hour shifts a day.
Are there any other questions that anybody would like to ask about this item? Come on to the next side.
How you doing? Okay, the question I want to ask, I work with promoters every year at the James Clark Park, and matter of fact, we got dates set for July 11th. So will we give all this information? Will they have this information so I can pass it on to the promoter that usually rent the streets if everything will change? Because we usually pay for it.
You make sure you're talking into the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, so as Tom said, what we would do is we will figure out how many parking spots each event is gonna take.
Okay.
There's 380 spots out there. So are you looking for, regardless of whatever number you're looking for,
Right.
then the system can generate a code, and when people are coming in, we just put that code in the kiosk and they're good to go.
Okay, because basically, we don't really have an idea how many come. You might have 300 or 400 or 500, 600. So that's what I want to actually know. I can't really say a different,
Right. to give you an idea, we do something very, very similar with the city of Aurora in Illinois at their riverfront park. The riverfront park is not only part of the commuter parking area, but it's also the parking area for the music theater that's there. They get some pretty large acts that come in there, and basically what we do is at certain times, if we know, they give us like a schedule ahead of time, and they say, okay, here this week it's going to be this particular event, and this week it's going to be this event. We can have it set up where those machines can automatically turn over to event parking at a specific time and generate those particular rates and codes for that particular event.
Okay. So long as we have this, information before the time we get ready to do ours.
Correct, and that would,
Right.
that's gonna be a two-way street, because you just gotta make sure you're working with, excuse me, the young lady that you set the park reservations up with, and all that downstairs, we'll get all that squared away.
Okay, as long as I get
Yeah,
that
and
back, so I can get it.
you know,
Yeah.
If this is approved and you guys want to go ahead with this, as we start the process, our service manager, our operations manager will get involved, and he'll start filling out programming sheets, and he'll ask for, event dates and things like that. And he'll go through a whole myriad of different, forms that we need to get this set up and get everything going so everybody's on the right page. It doesn't just get thrown together. We like to make sure when it's launched, from our aspect of it, there's no issues going on, and hopefully the people will catch on to the education of just shooting their license plate with their telephone camera as the way to remembering their license plate.
Okay. Thank you a lot.
I think that's, I don't know, does anybody else have any questions on this item? I think that's it. Thank you. And I'm sure on Monday night there'll be plenty of questions. You'll be presenting this on Monday as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right, Tom, we're good, thank you.
Okay, have a nice evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the metrics report. Okay. Citywide cleanup.
Well, Madam Chair, where is Commissioner Simmons?
He's running a little
He's
late.
coming in.
He's in my office there, and I'd like for him to hear this too. He can't.
He'll hear on you to the next
We're planning a citywide cleanup. A citywide cleanup that involves the people and the city. And we're looking at putting, we're talking about, is it April what? What's the date?
Mr. Mitchell, I don't have my notes for that with me
Yeah.
at the moment.
Somewhere around
The 18th?
15th, 16th, 17th, I think it is. They're about to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we're looking at putting 22nd, 23rd, 24th, so it's the next week. And we're looking at putting dumpsters in two in each ward in identified places, and we're in the process of identifying those places. We're gonna have a public works representative at each site that's in charge, basically, working with community residents, one or two, whoever the commissioners. So you have their responsibility as commissioners in wards to identify those people, to work with us. As we move one dumpster out, take it to the landfill, another dumpster is there, so there's no dumping on the ground. Then bring that dumpster back, still have two. And again, we're looking to make that a real effort to unite the community around the citywide cleanup. And understand that the DDA is looking to do one downtown. So we'll be working with them to see how to do it in conjunction. Yeah, let's finish this. While commission's coming up, Chief is asking about the tires. I was trying to get this cleanup out of the way first, but go ahead, talk about the tire.
We're gonna have that this year again. It's gonna be May 14th and 15th. So kind of the same plan, same time. We figured last year we got 2,860 tires collected. So we're hoping to keep that going. So it's gonna be May 14th and 15th.
Now, that's just the start. We're going to do enforcement. And we're gonna advertise it so that the people know what's going on. And we're going to enforce and clean the city up. We spent a lot of money last year cleaning up where it was dumped. We wanna get the dumps, the people who are doing the dumping. And we'll have code enforcement. Right now, I won't even say how many we have, but we're gonna reinforce that number. And we're going to use what's on the books to keep the city clean.
Commissioner,
Yes, good evening, everyone. Through the chair, I apologize for those dates. I was thinking of the DDA. We're having a cleanup. We were looking at 16th through the 18th, which is a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, right, of April. However, one of the volunteers that we was going to get involved, which usually helps me with Hall Park every year, is Andrews. So the DDA, I mentioned to them that they cannot come out on a Saturday. So now our next meeting, I guess we'll go between those 2 days. So I just apologize for the 22nd, it's not the same.
Madam Chair, well, I just learned that they were planning to do that this afternoon, not too long ago, the DDA.
Right.
So what we'll do is coordinate with them.
so they didn't want to join this one because it would make sense to do it at
No,
the same time?
they
No,
didn't,
we
they
had
didn't know,
discussed.
they didn't know.
Yeah, we had discussed this a while back, and we just been haggling over the dates. And when we did come down with a date, we was gonna pick the 18th, which would be on a Saturday. But then that's when I mentioned to them that Andrews wouldn't be able to help because it's on a Saturday. So
We have
now
something
we don't.
We actually have something on the 18th, I think.
And not only that, though,
But we didn't know the city was doing one.
No, I'm saying we have something else on the 18th.
The city?
oh, that's right. Sure do.
I have that in my calendar.
That's exactly right.
We sure do.
Okay.
6, 7,
That's why we're having it
16.
next week.
It's the following week. So that's what I'm saying, the DDA couldn't join, because it would make sense, because we have all these people out to do a separate day, and to ask people to commit to another day to actually do that, because I'm committing to this day.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna do the 18th because it's on a Saturday.
No, I guess what I'm saying is to see if they could change
Oh,
the
that whole
dates,
thing,
because
Right. And do
they
it
need to
with-
change the whole
include-
day.
everybody at the same time.
Yes, it just makes sense.
I can mention that to him. I can get a hold of the president.
I'll
and
call
see.
them.
Okay, that'll work.
Well, it's just one person, it doesn't make a difference, but it just makes sense. to
Yeah, I
do it on
don't
the
think you
same
have a
day.
problem with
I don't
it.
think you would.
But that was it. Along with that, I guess I can ask this question. So I can still ask for Andrews to come out of Hall Park.
Yeah, sure.
Cool, thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments on this item? Were you done, Chief? Okay.
I was gonna ask more about cleanup. Okay. I'm kind of excited, and when I saw the list here speaking of the citywide cleanup, I got really excited because this will make something that's been on my mind, my heart for years. But what I'd like to ask the street sweeper, we got so much on the curbs and so much debris that's covering a lot of the drains, and when it rains, the sometimes a lot of buildup. Is it possible that we'll have the street sweeper in operation for this cleanup?
Very possible,
Otherwise,
very possible.
okay,
It's
because,
in the plan,
okay,
and, there's some other things in the plan too that we have not worked out the details on yet.
okay. Because now, there's a lot of vacant lots. And in front of those vacant lots, sometimes the curbside and the tree lawn part is not kept up. So is that in the making of having a solution for that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions about the citywide cleanup?
Let me say, not only in between areas, but there are some areas between, out in the alleys.
Yeah,
And we're planning on how to deal with that also.
Flyers,
Flyers, newspapers,
no, I'm saying, have they been made already?
no. We just started this process, last week.
Sounds good. Next item on the agenda is the Juneteenth event. Ms. Kennard?
no, that's me, okay.
Excuse me. We talked about this for a couple months. I asked that this come to our committee so we can send it to the commission. What we are asking, last year, was the first year for Juneteenth.
Parade.
Parade, I'm sorry, Juneteenth parade. And the city, we supported them, went very, very, very well, very well. Expect it to be better this year and bigger. So what we're asking for the city to consider is a resolution supporting the Juneteenth like we do the Blossom Time. We even maybe also ask that we maybe do it perpetually. And then also that the city would allow or consider waiving the car cleanup deposit. There's a $250 deposit that they would go back if the park is clean. Anyway, so that for this year it would be two. So that's $500. Again, if we're going to partner with them, I think that's something that can be an in-kind contribution. And then also to ensure that the park is cut the week of and it's clear. I think that's fair. This is a city resident and it's done in the city by residents. Again, it was, if you were there last year, people were coming out of their houses, people were driving over, seeing it, and we had at least a couple hundred people at least, you know, from Broadway Park down. So I think it's a good effort. I think what they're asking for is not much. And that's what we are asking.
So do you have a resolution that you could send us?
If you say we can set up, then we'll.
I mean, we should have brought a resolution so we can put it on Monday.
I'm new to the resolution.
Okay,
We'll have
it's
it.
just, you'll have it for Monday?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because we're doing Blossom Times on Monday. Oh, no.
And just
Yeah,
speaking of
December.
Blossom Time, we're doing this the week, 2 weeks before, so the city can be cleaned up for Blossom Time. That's the timing of it. Now, just so you know, we're going to tell you the other part of it. We're looking to have a second cleanup the fall.
Yeah.
So we're going to clean up in the spring, clean up in the fall.
So this had to be brought before the full body?
Yeah, so any resolutions, they come
Yes.
before we approve it, so we'll have a commission meeting on Monday, so we can, if you guys, we can approve it on Monday. There's not a problem at all. I always say, just ask for what you want. So my kids, ask for what you want. The worst we can say is no.
Yes. And one of the things that makes me feel pretty good that Broadway, which will be coming down Broadway, our cleanup time will be prior to that, because that's the 20th of June, that we will be having the parade. So the cleanup time comes in May, the what? What was it, May?
April the 22nd.
Okay, yes. And so maybe it would sort of impact the minds of especially the area we'll be traveling, that they'll be caught on to the cleanup and have it looking pretty nice. Because we're hoping that we have, in fact, there are people coming from other cities to the parade.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice.
Yes.
Do you have a flyer or if people wanted to participate in the parade and
Yes,
contact
we do have
information?
those forms, and I'll bring some Monday with me
Okay.
and make sure that those that, because the vendors and all will be down here at Pete Mitchell Park. The parade will stop at 275 Pipestone, you know, all of that, but, those that, vendors or those that want to participate in the parade, we have the, forms for them to fill out. That way we'll have an idea how big of a number we'll have. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or things that anybody want to ask before we, any more comments or questions?
Any questions?
Concerns, suggestions, or chief?
You got a question, Darren?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a question, I asked.
No, I just saw the expression.
Right.
No, I was
maybe
just
it
waiting
was-
on to see who was gonna respond. No.
I think that was it.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
I
you.
was gonna respond, but it wasn't a question. It was more or less for us.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. So
We get a
before
resolution?
he's going to bring, he's going to,
Such a resolution.
he didn't have one, he'll have one for us on Monday. He didn't know, I guess, that he needed to bring a resolution. Before I close the meeting, was there any other questions or comments, before we dismiss this meeting? Any other
Yes.
questions or comments?
Oh, we missed one. Oh, he was doing,
No,
that was Gene
we're done.
Clark.
Yeah, we've done that already.
Oh,
That was the first one, we moved it to the first item.
Oh, thank you, because I was a little late.
shoot.
Because it was somebody on.
As you know, Gene Clark Park is one of my babies. When you look at how God works, it didn't touch too much. The water didn't touch Gene Clark Park too much. We have more beach than anybody. And I would like to see the fees go up this year from 35 to 45 for out-of-town guests. I think it's $6 for daily passes,
For residents, and $8 for non-residents.
$8 for non-residents. I would like to see that go up to $10. I would like to see Benton, the Gene Clark Park get its own line item for finance. Right now, all the Gene Clark Park money, over 150-some thousand, goes into the general fund. We haven't had an improvement in Gene Clark Park. Well, we did the repairs, but we have not had any activity or anything there. And it's one of our biggest assets, 150-some thousand, 190,000. And over the years, Gene Clark Park has been targeted. When they sold the property for Graham Avenue, they said that 5% of that profit was supposed to go to Gene Clark Park. If it did, we didn't see it. So I'm saying Gene Clark Park is one of our greatest assets. We should be making a lot of money and making a lot of people happy, especially our residents. So I would like to see if we could, and the season is right upon us. So I would like to see that maybe I can get it to come through personnel and finance or
The presentation that you said.
there's not gonna be any presentation. We're just gonna raise the fees. You don't need,
Oh, I thought.
you don't need
were
no
talking about something
presentation to just raise the fees.
No, I thought you were asking.
If you hadn't have moved it up, we'd be talking about putting a resolution on the floor right now. But since I missed it, I wanna see if I can get it on somebody else's agenda because spring is already here. For any of those suggestions, can I get a comment or something?
Okay, I was just waiting until you finish, because I have some questions for city manager in regards to the park.
I'm finished.
Okay, Yes, and yes, and so if you need Kim is not here to do a resolution, so she wants a resolution on, raising fees for the park.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry she missed that presentation. She would not be asking, I don't think had she heard the entire presentation.
About the parking?
Yeah.
Yes, I would. That's even more so. We need more money.
You need to sit down and talk with me first, please, please.
That has nothing, Mr. Mitchell.
Please,
Parking has nothing to do.
please.
Thank you.
I have a question about the buoys that were supposed to go up at the beach and the river. It was discussed last year about the river buoys going up to protect people who were fishing, and also for the river for the beach. And I asked about this probably several years ago. I could think of at least 2 years ago that we had this conversation about swimming.
I do remember the buoys. I'm working on that right now for the beach specifically to make sure that we have our designated swimming areas, so no boats are getting parked in there.
Because that was an issue last summer. I was out there and people were pulling their boats up near the sand and parking.
Yep, I've started the conversation with the Coast Guard to make sure that we've got everything, all our ducks in a row, and then we can get them put out there. On the river, are you specifically talking about the area by Yarborough Park there?
Mm-hmm. And where people fish, something was supposed to go there to protect the
I
lines.
will.
In fact, the gentleman that came about the wake, they were supposed to put those last summer.
Let me make a note. I'll contact the DNR on that because they actually regulate that waterway there.
Yep. That's why they came.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to put those out last year.
I'll dig into that and I'll get you an answer.
Okay, that's fair. Is there any questions? Any more questions before we go? I think we're done with our part. Go ahead. This will be I guess the final question or comment before we dismiss.
Hi, I just have a question about, again, the officer. Just wanted to know if he is still working.
And
Officer Drew Wagner.
okay. And I would say for me, I wouldn't know that. And because it is a personnel matter, I don't know specifically, and I'll defer this to the city manager, if we can discuss personnel matters without an approval from that employee without going into closed section, which I don't think we can.
No, I'm just asking, is he still on?
What I'm saying is it's still a personnel matter. We can't discuss it. Even if he was, we couldn't say yay or nay because of, we could get in trouble for saying yay or nay because it's And so if an employee says we can discuss an ongoing something with them, then we could. But I'll defer to our city manager.
I'll say this, Madam Chair. An investigation of this situation is underway, and when we get all the facts, we will announce them. And I've spoken to the mother and had that conversation with her. Just
Thank you.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I know you've spoken to the mother, and the mother did speak with me about your guys' conversation. And she wasn't pleased with the answer that you gave her, because the question still arose that if he was still working, if he was still on the force on the streets, because he needs to be off the streets. And also with we'll talk about that later. So anyway, that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask about that. Okay, I get that you can't talk about the actual situation. But also, this mother right here would like to talk a little bit about some issues that happened with her son. I got a call about some things that took place. She can tell you more better about what happened or what took place with her son regarding the police department and some trumped up charges that was put on her son from the Benton Police Department. So I'm gonna let her speak on that.
State your name. State your name.
My name is Erica Hodge. There was an incident Saturday, the 7th, that took place with my son, James Jackson. Prior to this situation that happened, there was an incident with Officer G. I felt like Officer G had harassed my son. Looking at the video of his body cam, he was calling my son an idiot. He said, in a way that he feels like he's an officer. We're gonna toy around with him. This is all on his body cam, making me feel like he was harassing my son. Okay, well, jumping to the incident that happened Saturday, there was an incident. My son and my mom, and my two children were told that at the time, my son was not in any trouble, that he would not be arrested for the incident, that he was okay. Next thing you know, they look up and there's a tow truck coming and my son is going to jail. When my son gets, we asked him, why is he going to jail if you told us that he was okay? They told us, I guess it was something like he was going to go to the station. I don't know how it happened because I wasn't there. But anyway, when he gets to the county, my son has at least 6 or 7 felonies that they gave him. They didn't send his paperwork over so he could go to court that Monday. Or that Sunday when the magistrate came in, they didn't have his paperwork. He ended up staying over there until yesterday, which was Monday, because they didn't get his paperwork, or Tuesday, because they didn't get his paperwork right, at least they say. That morning they end up putting a kidnapping charge on my son, which all those felonies that they gave my son could have gave my son life in prison. When I spoke with someone in the prosecutor's office, they looked at me and said that they couldn't even explain half of the charges that was given to my son. And they were dropped down to misdemeanors, 3 of them. One of the charges that's on there, my son was licensed to carry a gun. It said, the person that I talked to said that he is a minor in possession of a firearm. My son is 26 years old. He's not a minor. He told me that those were charges that they were just trying to throw at my son. This came out of the prosecutor's office mouth. I went to speak to Mr. McGinnis, and from what he gave me was he was taking up for his officers. He told me that when he looked at the charges, these aren't the charges that they gave him, and he gave me a piece of paper of the charges. But then he also went on to tell me, this lady, she was scared for her life. She was hollering and screaming. Well, yeah, I would be hollering and screaming too if you just went to somebody's house and tried to rob them in their home. But you never took this lady to jail. You never tried to find the person that was in the vehicle with her when this incident happened. Instead, you targeted my son and you took my son to jail. They talking about cleaning up the streets. They need to be talking about cleaning up these corrupt officers that we got that's making these kids out here do some of the things that they're doing because they're not trying to help them. They out here making some of these kids pretty much do the things that they're doing because look at how they're treating them. They sitting up there, they putting charges on these kids and they going to prison for stuff that they doing. The charges that they're giving them, probably half of them charges that they getting ain't even right, just like they did to my son. Do you know that I sit up and I worry about what they gonna do to him if my son's safe driving the streets because of the things that they're doing to him? Look at the harassment from Officer G. My son used to be a reserved officer. He's not on the force no more due to an incident that happened. But there's an officer from the situation that happened that's messing with this same person that my son is off the force for. There's a lot going on, and I don't like it. I'm a mother. I got to worry about if my son is going to be safe. And it's not right. They supposed to be here to protect and serve us. And that's not what they doing. And I'm fed up with it, for real. It's scary, because I don't know what's gonna happen to my son. They find bodies floating in the river every day. How I know it ain't gonna be my son one day.
So I would just like to ask, for the city manager and the commission to look into what she's talking about and just find out, a little deeper, investigate what is going on within your department. Because again, they're here to protect and serve, and harassment, it should not be tolerated from the officers if that's what's going on. Just like, excessive force shouldn't be tolerated either, so.
Also asking why he.
Sir. If you have anything to say, you will need to say it here, and you need to address your, because this is not, you probably, yeah. This is not the form for that, officer. Mr. G. This is not the form for that. Thank you. Do you have anything else to say?
We'll investigate, yes.
Thank you. This meeting is officially Mr. Singleton. Do you have anything else to say? We're done.
Okay.
This meeting is officially adjourned.
You wanna say
Thanks for
something,
coming.
Mr. Singleton?
Thanks for coming, Mr. Singleton.
You wanna say